Okay. Hi. Um, yes, I will make it up somehow. I'm here now, and um, I don't know what's going on. I'm so sorry, friends. And we have some ideas, but don't ask me because I'm not the person. So can you hear me? Can you see me? My mighties, I know that we're not on Facebook tonight. We're not going to stream. But I am back and I do want to meet with you. And so I am going to talk to you about allergies, right? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. And so I, it's a subject that is, thank you. Wait a minute. Some say we see and hear you, says Michelle. Yes, yes, yes. We can see and hear. Yes, all is good. Okay, good. Excellent. So allergies are a place that I absolutely hated for a long time because I was so allergic. I had allergies as a child, as a baby. They kind of morphed when I went into teenage years. The eczema went away, and instead I had stomach problems. Oh my gosh, it was just awful. Then, as an adult, I started to get asthma and all kinds of things. And I have to tell you, my friends, that my brother never had any of this, and I was the only one. And but my brother also didn't have a lot of antibiotics. I did. And my the eczema that started was I was 6 weeks old, right after one of my injections. And so that's what got it started. Then shortly after, strep throat and all that business as a young baby, as a baby, and antibiotic, steroid, antibiotic. Back in the 50s. So I believe that what happens with these allergies is that it brings us to our knees when we fiddle with Mother Nature. Now, having said that, what are we going to do? We were fiddled with. We can't undo it. Well, in a way, we can undo it, but we can't change history. All we can do is move forward. And that is exactly where homeopathy comes in. Now, I'm going to show you the Robin Murphy's repertory again. This is what I use. This is what we study in my courses. It's what we study in the academy. This is the fourth edition. And I'm also going to show you the section on allergies right here. Now, I can't see what you can see, so I'm hoping that you're seeing this. Allergies. Look at all those medicines for allergies. You see all of these? All of those, they've got to be close to 100, are remedies that could be used to uproot or at least deal with some of the conditions. The goal is to uproot, but to deal with some of the conditions that allergies cause. And so the most important ones are Allium cepa, Arsenicum album, Apis mellifica, Urtica urens. Those are the top ones. Secondary ones, which are really very primary, but they're secondary at least in the way that they're laid out here, are calcarb, bromium, gelsemium. I'm just going to read some of them. Histaminum, eupatorium, sorinum, pulsatilla, and a couple of others. Tuberculinum. Now I'm going to tell you something that after all the years of my allergies, I did see a great deal of improvement by using Nux vomica, which was given to me by a homeopath, and that is a secondary level. It's pretty important, and it changed my whole countenance and improved me by about 45, maybe 50% by using Nux vomica 200C. It was downright miraculous. After years, no, decades, no, half a century worth of debilitating allergies. And I had them in every level. I had them eyes, runny nose, asthma, eczema, you name it, I had it all. Nux vomica worked splendidly for me. Now, why do you suppose Nux Vomica was so great? Yeah, the page is 2080. That's right, in the book, in the repertory. Because I had so many drugs. Ailments from drugs. That's right, Leanne says. Ailments from drugs equals Nux Vomica. I had so many drugs. I had superfluous vaccines. Well, they're all superfluous, but I had extra vaccines. I had taken my body down to a level that was where I was crawling. I mean, I was in bad shape. That Nux Vomica pulled me out. Now, what I want to point out to you when we look at this repertory is that we don't see the remedies that the Banerjees discuss. At least we see them there, but they're not prominent. Kelp carb is a secondary remedy, and it is very important. Tuberculinum is in that same level. It's bold but not underlined. Both of them bold but not underlined. But what about the remedy that I teach in the allergic course? I teach it as well as kelp carb and tuberculinum and psorinum, etc. What about Bovista? For allergies to foods, allergies to pollen, allergies to wheat, allergies, Bovista. And it is in here. But my friends, it's a tertiary level. It's not bold and underlined. It's not bold. It's italicized. And so I want you to note that this is why it's so important to learn these protocols. Because had you looked at this list, one more time, take a look at this. Had you looked at this list and looked at allergies, how would you ever have come up with a medicine? It perplexed me. It would perplex you. It perplexed me studying homeopathy for years. It eluded me. Now, I have used Bovista, but it's not the main medicine that I've used throughout the years. I find that the medicine that has helped me the most has been, as I said, Nux Vomica a while ago. Tuberculinum has helped me a great deal, and I don't take it frequently, and I'll explain how I use it. And kelp carb. So those are the underpinnings. And when I describe the underpinnings, I try to use the example of an orchestra where the string section is carrying the melody and the harmony. And that is the baseline. That's the fact that we have an allergic constitution to start with. And then after that, we have once in a while, in comes the haunting oboe. Once in a while, in comes the triangle. So that would be like the allergies are there, but now once in a while, the eyes swell up and get itchy. The allergies are there, but once in a while, eating too much chocolate makes somebody sick. The allergies are there, so we're going to use those baseline remedies, calc carb or Bovista or tuberculinum or psorinum, and try to give you as much as I possibly can, string section says James, our conductor, our resident conductor. I want to give you as much information as I can to concentrate it for you tonight. But I also want you to know that to truly get to allergies, because it is a deep underlying the glockenspiel. That's true. Deep underlying condition. So we've got to go to the baseline plus an occasional remedy as needed for the acutes that present. So what have I found for myself? I want to share it with you. Yeah, always a wink and a nod to you, James. Urtica urns could be very useful for someone who gets hives. I've not had hives. We could use pulsatilla for somebody who's got gut problems. I didn't have gut problems. At least not in the recent couple of decades. Arsenicum album, which is a great remedy for angst, anxiety, and breathlessness. So when I was having asthma, I did use Arsenicum album, and it was downright miraculous. Now, I'm going to tell you that I use all of these medicines. We can start with this in a 200. Doesn't mean you can't use them in a lower potency, but I use them all in a 200. When I used Nux Vomica, it was a 200. When I used tuberculinum, I still occasionally take tuberculinum, it's a 200. When I've used calc carb, it's been in a 200 potency. And so when we look at the underpinnings and then the occasional glockenspiel or sackbut or oboe, or I'm trying to think of some others now, triangle, harp, those other medicines that I'm describing as the baseline are still acting, and every once in a while we need to go after those little extra sounds in the orchestra. So calc carb. How did I use calc carb? I used it in a 200, as I said, and I took it every 3 days, and I took it for some time. Tuberculinum, 200C, I took it every 14 days, and then after a couple months, once a month, so then every 30 days. Then after a few more months, once every couple of months. And then finally, what I do with tuberculinum is I take it on my birthday, generally, if I'm up to it. To be honest, I just had a birthday. I had no need. I didn't even think about it. I wasn't interested. I'd rather not take remedies, to be honest. On my birthday and on my half birthday. And that's how I use it for others as well. Now, meanwhile, my glockenspiel was when I moved to Florida, my eyes started to swell up and itch. And the itching was relentless. The swelling was huge. I looked freakish. It was pretty bad. One eye swelled so greatly that it actually the upper lid actually inverted. It was disgusting. How do I say it was disgusting? I'm not disgusted by human health issues. I can look at anything. And because I'm thinking about how I have to crack the case. But when it's my own eyelid, oh nay, I don't like that. So the medicine that I used for that, I used many, but I finally settled down. I used many medicines. I had used Apis, I used urtica urins, I used sulfur, I used pulsatile. Eventually, the one that made the biggest difference was euphrasia. And I had started with euphrasia, but I didn't stick with it long and hard enough. And so I returned to it later on, and now I've not had any of that any longer. My eyes do not swell. Now, occasionally I have lacrimation, and then when that happens, I know instantly I need euphrasia. Now I have to tell you, that's the only medicine that I used in a 30. Because in a 30, I could have used a 200, of course. But I think of the 200s as the baseline. That's the string section again, to uproot the propensity, while the glockenspiel, the sackbut, needs to come in and take care of those acutes. That's when I used it in a 30th potency. And one of my problems was that I did not use it frequently enough. I was not convinced that it was euphrasia. And so I didn't take it frequently enough, but I finally realized once it starts, I use euphrasia in a 30th potency, and I might use it every few hours in that day, and then it stops. I don't have to worry about it any longer. And it's been many, many months since I would say maybe as long as a year since I've had to use euphrasia. That's how I want you to look at this. If you don't have lacrimation and itchy eyes and swelling in the eyes, and instead you have urticaria, hives, you're going to consider either calc carb 200 every 3 days, or tuberculinum 200 every 2 weeks, or etc., etc. Now, I'm not going to tell you which one it is for you because I don't know you. But I will tell you that if you're whatever one you choose is the baseline, and truly, if you have allergies, I cannot urge you enough to take the allergic course because it really will explain it even further and lay it all out exactly how we put it together in a schedule and how we determine which is the medicine that should be used. because tuberculinum is a certain group of symptoms, while calc carb is often another little group of symptoms. And we want to be able to differentiate if we possibly can. So, yeah, the best medicine for reactions from chemical fragrance and odors, calc carb by far is the underpinning remedy, and the glockenspiel, the acute remedy is usually arsenicum album. And I would use either a 30 or a 200 of arsenicum. You bet. Calc carb 1 m once per week typically is the way it's done for those chemical sensitivities. And I practically guarantee, Tracy, I practically guarantee it, that the shift will be remarkable. It'll take time, but it will be remarkable. And what is also most remarkable about homeopathy is that one will see that other satellite conditions that you thought were unrelated are actually melting away. You didn't realize that the dry skin that you experience, you didn't realize that the itchy scalp, you didn't note that all of those kinds, that you couldn't eat this and you couldn't be around that, and all the little things, the little niggly things that were so cumbersome in your life start to fall away as we choose the correct medicine. Amanda says the allergic course is packed full of very useful info. I'm always going back to that course to help friends and family. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. One of the best courses. Thank you. I think it is too. If somebody has allergies in your home, you can't do without it. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just the way it is. And I always tell people, when you get that course, don't take it once, don't take it twice, don't take it 3 times, take it 4 times, my friends, because I don't want you to fast forward all the way to the part that you want to deal with. I want you to hear the beginning, the middle, the middle, the late middle, and the end. And then I want you to hear it again and again and again, because I guarantee you will miss something. You will miss something important. And probably the most important aspect is what to do after you've taken the medicine. I'm not going to tell you that by using calc carb 1 m that bam, no more chemical sensitivities in a month. No, although I have seen that happen. More often than not, it takes many months. But how do you know how to deal with that if you don't have a case management understanding? And that is where these courses come in. It's all about case management. There we go. Food allergies. Which course is better? Good gut, bad gut, or allergic? It is definitely for food intolerances, food allergies, good gut, bad gut. But they go hand in hand. At some point, you'll probably want to take the allergic course too. Look, I wish I could just hand it over. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to get as much out there as I possibly can. Now, here's something that is very important. I want you to know this. In the book, when we look at acute anaphylaxis, that is when the lips swell, the tongue, the throat. When we see that somebody's going into an anaphylaxis, they're not quite into shock, but they are on their way to something that could be quite dangerous. Tingling in the mouth, itching in the mouth, all of that. When it goes, we're not talking about just hay fever. That's a little different. Wyethia and all of that for the itching in the mouth. I'm talking about real swelling of the lips, of the tongue, of the uvula, the little punching bag in the back. Of the that is where we have to really know what we're doing, and it's not difficult to know what we're doing. But if you look here at acute anaphylaxis, right here, acute anaphylaxis, right down here. Here are the medicines. I want you to see them. I hope I'm holding this up properly because it's all backwards and upside down for me. The medicines are the most important. Swelling is Apis mellifica, Apis 6, Apis 30, Apis 200, Apis 1 m, Apis 10 m. Any of those will work, but you repeat it, and you repeat it when somebody's going through something like this. And the next one I want you to know that's anaphylactic, and you may not show up as swelling. It simply may be anaphylaxis of the throat and the swelling of the that's unnoticed just in the difficulty breathing. And I want you all to own this medicine. If you don't own it, please purchase it. It's not in most kits. It's carbolic acid, carbolicum acidum, 200. Everyone should own that medicine. The first time I learned about that medicine, I was in a study group very early on in my interest in homeopathy, and there was another homeopathy study group in another city, and actually in the suburbs, I should say, of where I lived. And we got a call one night. We were in our study group, and they were contacting us because one of their students in their group was a chemist, and she had been exposed to an extraordinary amount of formaldehyde, and she was anaphylactic. She was in and out of a coma, and they wanted to know if any of us had carbolic acid. Well, I was too new. I didn't own carbolic acid. And so we all got on phones and started to call people, because in those days there was no internet. You just called people you knew, and then you got somebody in a car and zoomed over to go get that remedy and try to help them. So and it did save her. Within minutes, she came round. It took a day or so for her to get completely round, but she started to improve dramatically. Dramatically. So you need to own carbolic acid. Now someone's asking, shellfish anaphylaxis, urtica or apis? Usually apis. Urtica urins could be useful, but it's if there are hives, it's more likely going to be urtica urins. But that's generally shellfish presents not as hives, but as swelling, and then we automatically think of apis. Usually we alternate because we're not sure which acts. Not a bad idea. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Alternate. Absolutely alternate. But you'll find eventually which one it will be. And actually, you may not eventually find out which one it was that acted, because what's going to happen is it's going to uproot the condition, and the person's not going to have it any longer. You won't need to treat it any longer, and you won't be able to test it out, at least on that, not on that person. That's the power of our medicine. That, my friends, is the power of our medicine. I used to have asthma, my friends, and it's gone. I've not had asthma since my oldest son, who's 35, was about 5 years old, 30 years ago. Yep. Now, what did it for asthma? Nux vomica helped originally, but then arsenicum album is what turned it around completely. I've not had any breathing problems. When I get sick with anything, doesn't generally, if it goes to my chest, it's very mild. I get fatigued, but I don't get asthma. What about difficulty breathing due to excessive coughing out of the blue? It's important that is what you would find in the allergic course. I'm not going to tell you that that exact statement is written in the course. Instead, you're going to find out that there are medicines that we use specifically for difficulty breathing. Now, what is difficulty breathing? Dyspnea, asthma, but coughing. So coughing. I know someone's going to come up with the remedy here. The main remedy that we use for coughing attacks that cause whatever, cause gagging, coughing that causes breathlessness, but coughing attacks. And I've actually talked about it on my blog. It's about excessive coughing. All right. Acute anaphylaxis is apis, but own carbolic acid, my friends. Allergic to cats. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Kathy. Yep, I would say it's Ipecac, but you're right, Leanne. We also want to consider Calicarb. Yep. And we could also consider antimonium tart. Yep. These are all good ones. My first thought would be Ipecac and then go to Calicarb. Ipecac is a low potency. Calicarb is the 200 potency. Now, I also want to point out here, I'm going to hold it up again. And this is allergy to, at the bottom here. Allergy to, I don't know if you can see this very well. Allergy to cats, and allergy to, the last one is allergy to chemicals. Now, I think allergy is actually a nicer word than reaction to. But chemicals, arsenicum album, it's our top remedy, arsenicum album. And to cats is arsenicum album and tuberculinum. You want to own these medicines and you want to own how to use them. What about allergies that react on the skin? As I said, urticaria, hives, or eczema, or psoriasis, or acne. Those that can be related to allergies as well. We're still going to use these medicines that are the baseline medicines. Choose one: kelp, carb, tuberculinum, sorinum, etc. We're going to use one of those, and then we're going to remember we're going to use how it's presenting. Then we go to the eczema protocol, and we go to the acne protocol, or oh, isn't that fascinating? Mindy says, I made a remedy by putting the cat's hair in water overnight, then made it into a 30C. She took it and now owns a cat. That's fascinating. It can be done. It can be done. I also have to say that worked for years with a lovely woman who was a breeder of Jack Russell dogs. I've told this story many times. And she bred these dogs using, the only medicine was homeopathy. The dogs were given only raw food. They were never injected. And she had gone through, as I believe, 5 generations of raising these dogs. And she was able to sell these dogs to people who would not be able to otherwise have a dog. She did the same thing with cats. She didn't raise them, but she had cats, and she found that over a couple of generations of giving them raw food using only homeopathy and not allowing any injections, that the cats were able to be owned by people who would not be able to be around animals, furry animals. So there are many ways to skin this cat, my friends. Yes, it is cool. So you can also purchase remedies of cat hair, I believe. I'm not sure. Helios may have it, but why not just use it? Make it yourself. I love that you did that. I'd like you to report on it when you don't, if you don't mind, from time to time, using it for other people as well. All right, let's see what else questions come in. What if I don't know if it's asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia, all triggered by hay fever, dust, and dairy? I've taken the allergic course and can't seem to heal my son. What if I don't know if it's asthma? Asthma is the diagnosis of asthma is inability to breathe or breathing difficulty. That's asthma. Bronchitis is, you're right, it is a little different. Or pneumonia. You would know if it's pneumonia. It's filling, the lungs are filling. Hay fever, dust and dairy. There you go. It's hay fever, dust and dairy. So I'm not sure I know what you mean when you say you can't seem to heal your son, but if it's triggered by hay fever, dust and dairy, first we cut out the dairy. Just cut it all out, just to limit the burden. Then we go to, because now we got one less thing to concern ourselves with. The dust, we want to make sure he's in a room that does not have carpeting and keep it spotlessly clean. And now you start using a medicine that's for hay fever. And you use it for a long period of time. This doesn't happen overnight, my friends. I've worked with people in which we've had to use these medicines, the allergic medicines, for a year, In fact, I often say to people when they have allergies, give me a year. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not going to feel, they're going to be sick, 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 sick over many months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, and at 12 months, bam, it's done. No, we are going to see a little shift here after 2 months, another little shift after 4 months, another little shift after 6 months, etc., etc. And that, my friends, is what is important for you to understand when you're taking these courses, that you follow exactly. You keep records. You know exactly what you've given that child, what the date was, what the intensity was, how bad was this respiratory condition? How bad is it? Is it a 9? You got to write down 9 so that when you go back to that in 4 months and look at what did I use, I don't know what the number is now, but now 4 months later, I guess I would say it's about a 6. And then you have to be able to go back and look at what it was 4 months prior. If it was a 9 before and now it's a 6, you're moving in the right direction. Just don't be impatient. Yep. For dust, also air filters running in his room and various rooms can help. Raw dairy is better option for those who are sensitive to dairy. I agree, Melissa, but for some, even that's no good. Even that can't be tolerated. I've worked with people who've had raw dairy, and it was all they had in dairy, and yet they still had sensitivity. So I would say no dairy at all, and then eventually you add in, because I think raw dairy is nectar of the gods, very important food. But I would not add that in until things quieted down some. Many people do well with Hungarian Zulas and have less allergic reactions. I'm unfamiliar. I have an Austin air filter, a lifesaver for me. Austin air filter, that's good to know. It's nice to know what you folks are using. I think we actually have got it. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Also, one other thing I wanted to add. With the sinus conditions, consider the combination medicines until you start feeling better, until you can get to the bottom line. You can get to the calcarb or the tuberculinum or the serinum. It's not and, mind you, it's one of those. You can use rhinology that boron makes. You can go online and just look boron allergy remedies. They have combinations, and they can be not only useful in a pinch, but they can also be useful in the long run. You might find that it has calmed down so much that you may not even need to go as far as you thought you had to. We tend to think that these combination medicines are only kind of superficial. They are not. They are not. That's the way they write it on the package. They say don't, for more serious, etc., more in depth than you need, etc. No. Hydrastis. Yep. Perhaps hydrastis is good for people who have been exposed to the smoke. Yes, you are. Yes, combos are awesome. Don't dismiss combos, my friends. It is something that Hahnemann talked about. He talked about combining medicines. Yes, indeed, he did. And we have too much information now to ignore the fact that combination medicines have value. All right, my friends, wonderful to see you. Thanks for putting up with my technical problems. And I don't know, next week, I'm hoping we're going to be able to do a better job of this. And we'll move on. God bless you all. Mwah. Love you. Have a great night.